Alright, let's take a look at that Zervit 0.4. We saw that that was pretty fragile. Just from our in-map scan with the version scan, we managed to make it fall down. Luckily, we know how to turn it back on. But we can actually, we saw, do a directory traversal just by talking to it directly through the web server. So we're less likely to bring it down in that case, since we're actually using it the way it was intended. So we found an example on Exploit database. We decided it was, I believe, 5 directories back to get to the C drive, and we did boot.ini. So sure enough, if it says save file, we found something. Otherwise, it'll say file not found. So from there, I guess our question is, one, what can we see? We're not entirely sure who we're running as. Well, of course, we know since we started it as the user Georgia, it's running as an administrator, so it's not system. It will have access to any of Georgia's files. So if we happen to know the name of any of Georgia's files, which we may or may not, but we may have some other options we might want to go after. We know this is Windows XP. We could find that out from our scans. So we won't be able to access the database of passwords or the SAM file directly. We won't have access to that. But on Windows XP, we actually do have a backup of the SAM file in C Windows System32 config SAM is the original, but what we want to do, because we don't have access to that, is go to C Windows repair SAM. Be able to save that file. Name it SAM. And in order to open that, we need a syskey out of the system hive. So this may not be entirely up to date. Some of our newer passwords may not be in there, or our passwords may have been changed. So this may or may not be helpful to us. And newer versions of Windows are not going to have this. It's not on Windows 7. But if we are able to access these files, it's worth a shot. We'll use them during our password hacking section. We'll see they're not as useful as, say, HashDump, certainly, but there's something. So based on what other software we saw, we can do some Googling or just gain some knowledge over time about other things we might be able to find. For instance, we know FileZilla FTP is on here as part of XAMPP. And so by default, if we go to see XAMPP, and then FileZilla FTP, and then FileZilla space server.xml. So this file is a configuration file for FileZilla, and it stores password hashes for our users of the FTP server in MD5 format. So we'll see this during our password guessing or cracking phase, which is maybe something we might be able to crack passwords. MD5 is going to be basically based on being able to use the correct word in our word list to crack it. There have been things like collision attacks and such against MD5. It's not a perfectly secure algorithm like some of the others, but it's not as broken as LMHash that we'll see for our legacy Windows algorithm in our password hacking section. But if we download this, this is another file that might be useful to us. So I'll just call it FileZilla.xml. So these are saving on the desktop by default. We can of course change that. If we go to desktop and I cat out FileZilla.xml, you can see here's Georgia. If we remember from our traffic capture section, we actually captured Georgia's password in plain text, so we actually don't need to crack this, but we could certainly try, and we will in our password cracking section. So also, this is a default account called new user, and new user does have a password. Similarly to our WebDAV, we may or may not actually need to crack this one. We may be able to find out what the default password that's built in for new user is, and just assume possibly that our users did not change this password. They didn't even know this account was there. You've got to love software that installs with defaults and doesn't actively tell you about it. And there is anonymous. So we've seen that previously already. That came up on our scans, and we also saw that there might be something we want in that anonymous FTP. There also might be something in Georgia's FTP that we want. So, just a few things there. So there certainly aren't all the interesting files we might want to go after, but just to start, I mean, based on what software is on there, you may have other options like this. I mean, there's lots of software that stores some sort of password hash. Some of them even have ways to decrypt it. It's like, I'm not sure what class it was. It was some class I took where it was some program and it was like encrypted with Blowfish, and you could just really easily get it back out by decrypting it. It was like you just made a couple changes to the Visual Basic script that was actually part of their program. So just, you'll see all sorts of stuff. It's certainly worth looking into these directory traversals where available. And in cases like this where it's like if I touch it, it might fall down, using things as intended, like with our uploads that we've been doing and things like this with the directory traversal, they don't require any memory corruption. They're a lot less likely to cause a problem. You certainly can't give a 100% guarantee there won't be a problem, but you can be much more conscious that it won't cause a problem.